everybody? This is Amazing Fantasy Football. I am Josh, and over there is the Polly Walnuts to my Silvio.
Chris.
That's right, folks. I am still watching Sopranos. I gotta say, Chris, I like we were talking about a little bit before we started recording. I'm a little on the Sopranos at the moment. Silvio is one of my favorite characters ever. I love him in that show. He is just Steven Van Zandt plays him. He is just so like.
Oh, is that the guy from? Is that the guy from? Don't let me finish. Bruce Springsteen's
I have no
band.
idea.
Bruce Springsteen's band.
I have no idea.
What's
anyways, he is so over. He's almost over the top with his like Italian, like, "Hey, what do we doing here?" and so on and so on. It's so great.
What's the character's
one of
name
the
again?
things I love the most about the show. What?
What's the character's name again?
Silvio.
Okay.
It's just Anyways, so how you doing tonight, Chris?
I'm doing amazing, man. It's it's the weekend, like it has been for us in the off season.
Since the weekend started.
Exactly. But no, just couldn't be a luckier guy. Have an amazing family. Have an amazing fantasy football show, and glad to be here with you to talk tight ends tonight. What about you?
I don't have family. This show is my baby, and it's slowly dying. That's not true.
Well, let's work our best to not make it your afterbirth.
I'm being like fake dramatic, I guess. Anyways, yeah. So Silvio, great television character. We're here to talk about some.
Yeah, that's the guy I was thinking about from Bruce Springsteen band, I believe.
Oh, is it? Is that where he's from?
Holy. He's got a very long wiki entry. I'm not going to go into it. Point is,
let's talk about some tight ends, because this week we are talking about tight ends, the top 12 tight ends of the 2021 season. Half PPR scoring, of course. I actually remember to mention that this time, Chris. You proposed a question here to me for this show. You proposed Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, or Darren Waller as tight end 1 for next year.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. For 2022. I initially said my knee-jerk reaction was Team Andrews. That is still my reaction.
Oh, you're going to go with it. Okay.
Yeah, obviously there's a little bit of biases here with Mr. Mandrews. Helping me win my rookie dynasty season in your face.
Well, he also had a Kelce-like season. Let's be clear.
Not quite though. He scored like almost 60 less points this year than Kelce did last year. Yeah.
Okay.
It's true.
That's fair.
Or that's 60. Fair. I think it was 30.
I also don't know if
it was. I'm sorry. It was 30. It was like.
I also don't know how often we see the Chiefs repeat said 2020 season.
Exactly. No, Kelce was a tight end 1 the last 2 years. I'm just kind of wondering if like Mark Andrews is going to be the new tight end king going forward for the next few years. He's only 26.
I'm a big fan.
Did you know that? Like real quick, sorry to interrupt you here, and not to jump ahead to Zach Ertz, one of the guys I want to talk about. Did you know that Zach Ertz was 26 when he came into the NFL? He's 33 now.
I did not know he was
going to be 32.
And oddly enough, I can't remember where he played. Let me take a guess.
I don't remember either.
I think
it was Oklahoma.
I think it was Oregon, but I'm really guessing.
Could be wrong.
And that's unlike me. I usually know where they play college ball.
Anyways, go ahead.
To answer the question, I just think Waller's going to have something to say with a different staff at Oakland. I don't know, man. I think me and you were kind of on the train of perhaps Kelce is not the tight end 1 at the beginning of this past season of 2021. But he still had a top 3, right, season. Where's my spreadsheet? So 2. There you go. Kittle was in the discussion beginning of this season of, hey, if somebody ascends past him. Well, I'm just saying Kittle was hurt. If he weren't hurt,
that's why I'm out on him. It's always something.
Again, at the beginning of this offseason, 2021, me and you were both like, we would have anointed Kittle, but we were hesitant, even though we were lower on Kelce
because of injury,
like number 2 or 3. Well, age,
here's why I'm saying about
statistical
Kittle
regression.
Too. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be in San Francisco. From what everything is reporting is that they're moving forward. No Jimmy G, going to be Trey Lance next year. So
But I think
that
you would be jumping the gun if you assume that Kyle Shanahan can't get the ball to both Kittle and Debo well enough with.
yeah, but I'm not
Trey
drafting.
Lance.
I'm not drafting Kittle as a top 4 tight end.
Number one.
Because of that reason.
Literally talking about number one. So you make a very good point with Kittle. I would neither put him there. I will say this much about Andrews. I am very wary of putting him as my tight end 1 next year and drafting him like a Kelsey this past season where we were drafting him at the end of the first. Because statistical regression. I just don't think it'll happen again.
Touchdowns are fluky.
Yep, and we'll get into that tonight.
They certainly can be. Mark Andrews, he was he had 6 games with 8 or more catches. He had 5 games with more than 100 receiving yards, and he had 9 touchdowns, all of which weirdly came in the red zone, which makes me a little wary of that. But the thing I like the most about Mark Andrews, 5 games more than 100 receiving yards. 5. The rest, like, I don't think any other. I didn't look at every tight end like stat. I think
the reasons folks hate Baltimore receivers is the same reasons we love Mark Andrews.
He's their best receiver.
He's their best receiver. That could change.
But also, like, also 6 games with over 8 catches too. Like, he's a part of the offense.
Money.
And then here's the thing too is that, like, he was the excuse me, I don't remember the, like, second most or the first most targeted tight end in all of football this year, which is great. Like, I think that the Ravens, they figured it. Like, Andrews, they just gave him a big contract midseason. Have you ever seen this guy without a shirt on? I'm not trying to be like, ooh.
I'll say this much: I watched him in college.
This dude is fit.
I watched him in college. I kept up with him in draft time, whichever year that would have been at this point, 2017 or 18, probably 2018.
Probably.
Very impressed with how he was going to translate into the pro game, and it is absolutely playing itself out before our eyes. I'm just saying I'm hesitant to make him tight end 1 next season because of statistical regression. There's a couple other names I like to throw in there, including Darren Waller.
Waller, yeah. My other problem with Waller though is different head coach. I know, like, Waller's the best receiver, like Andrews is to the Ravens. Waller is definitely the Raiders' best receiver at the moment.
Absolutely.
But they're also talking about they might scrap Derek Carr too, depending on what the new head coach said. That
would completely change my take.
So, like, as of right now, man, as of this moment, Saturday, we won't date ourselves. Playoff time, end of the 2021 season. I'm going Andrews. If Derek Carr stays there, I'm definitely bumping Waller back into maybe the conversation. But as of right now, it's not even close. Waller is out for me right now. It's either Kelsey or Andrews. Do you have, like, just to kind of fast forward a little bit, do you have a sleeper that could potentially end up being the tight end 1 next year?
Absolutely. Gronkowski plays 17 games. I don't think there's any question.
Even if he would have done,
I don't think that's gonna happen. To be clear, so let me name a better name.
No. Gronk finished over 100 points behind Andrews. Even if he would have played all 17 games, he wouldn't have gotten it. He'd have still fallen 40 points short of the tight end.
Fine. His average was still lower. Statistically, clearly, he wouldn't have been the tight end 1. I would say Kittle and Schultz. Now, I say Schultz with 2 caveats. 3 caveats. Number 1, he's on my list to talk about tonight. Number 2, 4 caveats. He's on my list. I'm a Cowboys fan, but more importantly,
you're a Cowboys fan. You're a Cowboys fan.
Well,
you're a Cowboys
touchdowns.
fan. And there's your 4 caveats.
Right, exactly. End of show. Thank you. Good night. Touchdowns, again, can be very fluky. And lastly, I would say that, or should I say in his favor, would be that, Gallup's probably leaving too. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I was going to say. Contrary to his favor would be that he's a free agent. But also so is Gallup. So, targets, man. He's up there. Touchdowns, he's up there. Like, he could be, he's a dark horse. I will call him a dark horse So my answer to your actual question, I guess, would be Waller because I have not a better answer right now.
Here's
Because
mine. I have two.
I don't want to go.
And you're and one of them's gonna shock
Obvious
you.
ones are Kelsey and Andrews, but go ahead.
No, I said dark horse. Dark horse. Dawson
Oh,
Knox.
you did. Sorry. Okay.
Dawson Knox. He had a lot of touchdowns this year. Next year, maybe he gets some more. He gets some more targets, some more receptions, some more yardage.
Some more health.
Could be a tight end one. The tight end one. Sorry. And here's the one that's going to shock you here. Actually, oh man, I have three. TJ Hawkinson, health, quarterback. That's a super dark horse right there. What was my guy? Kyle Pitts. You throw some touchdowns in with all that yardage. Boom. Tight end.
I don't want to call it low hanging fruit to call you out. I just kind of glossed over him for that reason. Honestly, I was kind of like, you know what? That's fair. I probably should have put him right up there with Waller.
I'm going to call you a big old liar.
No, I'm gonna call me wrong.
Liar.
I'm gonna call me wrong in that I glossed over him because I just forgot, and because also that probably should have been a given. Maybe I don't know. I like that. I like your Pitts answer. I really do. I'm sorry I didn't think of that myself.
Dawson Knox, the guys that are in the top 12 right now that could finish as a tight end one next year. Knox and Pitts.
All right. Well, we're 13 minutes deep. Let's. Was that Andrews? Were we done with Andrews?
Well, that also kind of covered Kelsey too.
I was just going to say that too.
Well, the thing I wanted to say about Kelsey too is that like he's going to be like 32, 33 next year at the start of the season. Are we kind of seeing like the slow decline to the beginning of the end? Like I was if you remember before the season started, the 2021 season, this past season started, I was like, I'm in on Kelsey for one more year. And I'm going to stick by that. I'm done now. I'm done. I'm not taking Kelsey in the first round. I'd rather be out a year too early than a year too late, you know? But and maybe it's high end production for 2 more years and I'm just out way too early. But
just to refresh my memory, you were on Kelsey in the first round this past year. He was.
Oh yeah, I was down for it.
No, 100%. That's fine. I'm misremember. I'm not misremembering. I just couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Agreed. The last thing I'll say about Kelsey, as far as a big picture thing, is the Chiefs, I think, are probably already looking at replenishing the offensive skill cabinet.
Well, they need to find a new running back now.
Let me finish. In an economical way. In an economical way. I'm not saying they have a high pick this year. I have no idea. I'm just saying, I assume they don't. I'm just saying that I think they'll be looking at receivers and tight ends, maybe even, well, not backs in the first round, but you know what I mean? Like, I think the cupboard is more bare than we think. Yes, obviously Tyreek Hill, there's no reason to think he's not still in his prime, but hey, it wasn't his best season.
Some of that was, you know, and not to get too far into like the season as a whole, but just about every single team had some sort of a hiccup this year.
Offensive regression.
There was not one team that was just a offensive giant the entire year, and say the Rams, no, they had a hiccup.
The Cowboys fan here, absolutely.
The Bucks did. Your Cowboys did.
It didn't feel like a top.
The Cardinals definitely did. The Seahawks fell apart.
Well, Cardinals lost their QB for a whole minute, so. But you make a very valid point. It wasn't as consistent.
It was a bit of an odd season. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Which followed like an odder season than the season before, where there were no fans in the stands.
An otter season, or like seals or walruses. I'm sorry, you're really confused right now. That was.
Well, I'm talking about sea otters, not river otters. I think that's what you're. I think that's what you're getting mixed
silly
up.
Silly me.
Yeah, dude. Have you ever watched some otters at the zoo?
Speaking of sea otters. Let's see if we can make this transition.
Have you ever watched otters at the zoo? Those animals are like put on this earth to have the most fun as possible they possibly can.
I feel like
those animals are never not having fun.
I feel like they're amphibious monkeys.
They're not amphibious though. They can't breathe underwater.
I don't think you have to literally be able to breathe underwater to be amphibian. No, you're right. Amphibian, like a frog or a turtle, right? No.
Yeah.
Some of them can't. Yeah. Okay. Whatever that is, a mammal that loves water. Who's the next tight end on the list, Josh?
I love water. I'm a
mammal. Moving on.
What are you getting at there, Chris? No, we're not glassing over this.
I'm getting on that we're 20 minutes deep. On,
Are
that's a
you trying
lie.
to say that an otter is amphibian? And you're so out of
It's
it
clearly
too
not an
because it's my edit
amphibian.
too, and this is not getting edited out.
It's clearly not an amphibian. I'm trying to move on because I don't want to talk about frogs and otters anymore.
Do you want to stop being wrong? Okay. Number 3 on our list is Dalton
Oh,
Schultz.
God.
Before you start into, you wanted to talk about Dalton Schultz, obviously, because you're a Cowboys fan, and you had a bit of a preseason interest in him as well. But the one thing I want to point out about Dalton Schultz, like Mark Andrews, once again, half PPR scoring, 247 points, 216 points for Travis Kelce. And then at number 3, it drops all the way down to 169. Nice.
Yeah. 216 fantasy points for Kelce. We feel like it was a down year. That's expectations.
Well, considering that he scored like two.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is it's
2020.
stats and regression and expectations all over again, man. It is what it is. It's the way.
And
it
you can
feels
say
sometimes.
that you can say that Kelce missed a game this season. That's why, but he actually missed a game in 2020 as well. So
okay, good call.
I didn't know that either until I looked it up. I just was looking at his 2020 stats, which he actually in 2020 averaged over 17 points, and this year he averaged 13.6. But we're talking about Dalton Schultz, and go.
As Josh just mentioned moments ago, Dalton Schultz finishes as the tight end 3. He played all 17 games, to be clear on that. So that's a accomplishment.
That's a feat
Obviously,
for this season.
Absolutely, especially at the tight end position. Obviously, it also plays into his point total, which garnered him the tight end 3 finish. His ADP, and I have a theme with my two guys tonight. His ADP was 314, drafted as the tight end 36. To refresh folks' memory, there was still some scuttlebutt about who is the tight end 1 coming into the beginning of 2021 because, remember, Jarwin had a pretty nice 2019. I'm sorry, 2020. Math is tough.
COVID.
Then he got hurt. I think it was ACL,
Preseason.
something kind of exactly.
ACL preseason.
Missed an entire season. So coming into 2021, we didn't exactly know. So there has obviously bared itself out. Schultz has clearly proven himself as the tight end 1 in a really high volume offense. And
is he the tight end 1 though?
As a tight end 1.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Like all the guys we're talking about tonight.
No, I was talking like, but what about Blake Jarwin? Sorry, go ahead. I'm tired.
Dalton Schultz was one of only 6 tight ends to finish with over 100 targets. That is very significant in moving forward in 2022. His 8 touchdowns is 5th best, but only 1 less than the 4 guys that were tied for first ahead of him with 9. Both Schultz and Michael Gallup are unrestricted free agents this offseason. And Gallup's ACL was late season. That's important to remember in terms of...
that's right.
I mean, I think we're all... Let's not bury the lead. I think we all assume Gallup is gone. But him personally as a football player, like, it's going to affect the contract that he gets. I think he's a talented guy. Hopefully he gets somewhere that with a good training staff and health and doctors. Go ahead, Josh. What were you going to say?
I was going to ask you, as the resident Cowboys fan on this show, I thought that Dalton Schultz was still under contract for next year, and I knew Gallup was leaving. So my question to you is, with this injury to Gallup, my spidey sense is tingling a little bit that maybe Jerry Jones did this on purpose to get Michael Gallup on the cheap. But if they could get Gallup on the cheap,
are you saying Jerry Jones hurt Michael Gallup?
I'm not saying anything at all, but I might be alluding to something like that.
I'm pretty sure Gallup was an ACL, so it's like it's either torn or it's not.
Pretty sure Jerry Jones's bodyguard came running out in the field and hit him with a nightstick in the knee. Just saying.
Clearly, as Josh is alluding to, the reason I bring up Michael Gallup is targets. Again, folks, one of only 6 tight ends with over 100 targets on the entire season.
Who are the other 5?
This is what we want from our tight end, that whether we draft him at the end of the 1st or we wait till the 10th. Like, opportunity is king at this position, like it is any other. It's just really important in a position where you only start one in a position where it's a dumpster fire, quite frankly, year in and year out. If you don't grab the top 2 or 3, good luck. Dalton Schultz has shown us that maybe the top 2 or 3 should be more like the top 3 or 4. Again, we talked about the 8 touchdowns. We talked about Gallup. According to PFF, Schultz is 15th in run block rating. However, the list is full of part-time tight ends and run blocking specialists. Most of them under 500 snaps. The only ones kind of in that.
So what you're saying is
over
he's
600.
He's a good to great do-it-all tight end.
Absolutely, because
Okay.
the only other ones around, like 800, 900, even 600 plus snaps was Kittle and Andrews. They did great higher than Schultz, which isn't that surprising, but it's also admirable that Schultz finished that high, considering he's
in that
actually
good
a little
company.
bit. Well, he's also a little bit undersized. He's kind of more of a move tight end than you might think, or at least more than I did until looking into it. He's only 6'5", 244. And you can see it when you watch him in real life. He's more of a
fatty.
He's stocky. He's stocky. No, actually the opposite. He's stocky. Don't get me wrong. He's stocky, but he is not.
That would be the.
He's not a Gronk.
That would
he's
be
not
the
6'7", 2.
That.
I don't know how that works, but he's not 6'7", 260, man. He's just not. Look at him.
He's not Mo Alley Cox.
I think 6'5" is a little generous, honestly. I saw another listing at 6'4". I'll leave it at that. He did get off to a slow.
Inch.
Well, sports like to exaggerate depending on position.
So
he got off to a slow start with only 6.3. Yeah, exactly. He did get off to a slow start in the first couple of weeks with only 6.3 fantasy points scored total over the first 2 weeks before a big 2-touchdown day in week 3. Then another small slump for only a couple weeks after their bye week in week 7. Then he had another 2-touchdown game. So, that's half of his touchdowns came from 2 games, to be clear about touchdown regression. Right. If he does return to Dallas, lock him in as a top 12 tight end. And honestly, Dallas could go cheap and let him walk. Then he becomes a very interesting target in terms of landing spot. I would throw the Chargers out in terms of that landing spot. Another reminder about contracts. Mike Williams is also a free agent in terms of a big pass catcher, red zone targets, etc. I'd like to see what Dallas does with Schultz. My gut being a fantasy analyst is that they will let Gallup walk and they will give Schultz a contract. And again, I believe he's a shoe-in for a top 12 tight end if that's the case.
Okay. So here's my one question to you, and then we need to move on. It's actually a couple questions, but they're interlinked. Dalton Schultz stays in Dallas. You think that he's going to make a play to be a top 3 tight end next year, correct?
I'm sorry. If he stays? No. If he stays
in Dallas.
He's a shoe-in for a top 12 tight end. You're asking me if he has a chance at a top 3 season?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, so where's he gonna get drafted? Top 5, 6 as tight end if he stays in Dallas. What do you think he's gonna do next year if he's in Dallas?
I would guess somewhere between 8 and 12 because people hate Dallas, and there was actually a little bit of a sour note left in our
even though Blake Jarwin's coming back from injury.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think Blake Jarwin is a 0 factor in this equation. He might even be gone.
Interesting. Okay.
I know they gave him a contract a year and a half ago.
Second question. Mm-hmm. What is Dalton Schultz going elsewhere? Let's say to make up a team, Josh. I don't like that one.
You want to steer away from my example of the Chargers?
Yeah, because I think Donald Parham's the future there. Let's say
opinion.
Yeah, it is.
No, go ahead. I would like a different location.
I'm going to go ahead and say the not that team. Let's just go the Bengals. That's what I was initially going to say.
Ooh, I love it. I think clearly whether he goes to the Bengals,
quarterback,
whether he stays in Dallas or goes to Cincinnati or goes to the LA Chargers, not the Clippers, I think he's absolutely a top 12 tight end, no question. However, to parse it more, in Dallas, I think he has an upside of a top 3 guy. In San Diego, I'm sorry. Dang it.
You almost made it through it.
I almost made it through the whole player without doing that. And I'm the one who brought up Chargers to begin with. I think it's a similar story with the Chargers. I really like that Bengals. Uh, I think I'd like to see Tyler Boyd go elsewhere to make that more of a top 3, top 5
He
thing. But
could. I think
yeah,
he's
I
close to
would
getting
to hedge
done
my bets, I
with
would say
Scotland.
Bengals. Given the current roster, he's a top
What
12
if
guy.
it was
He's
to
no more than a top 12 guy.
the Jaguars?
I mean, I don't even know the coaches and the quarterback. Mm, he's still a top 12 guy.
Okay. Okay.
I
Nope.
don't think you
I
go
thought it was. I
sign
thought it was
him.
pertinent.
Oh, quote unquote. I don't think you go sign him away from Dallas without using him. And I think he showed us a lot in the
Let's.
last year and a half. Look at his 2020. It's impressive too.
Okay. Let's move along to George Kittle. He's number 4 on our list. He's only
Go
7 points
Hawks.
behind. Thank you, Go Hawks. He's only 7 points behind Dalton Schultz as overall score for the season. I mean, he
But
was going as the number 3 tight end off the board, and like we said earlier, Kittle we weren't on in the beginning of the season because he was going as a tight end 3 off the board, and he got injured, but he ended up as the tight end 4. You're also missing him for 3 games, and it was really
that's
more
why we
like
go
4
by
or
total
5.
points. That's why we go by total points, right? Because you
Or
get
that's
that
why
injury.
we, yeah,
Because if it was points per game, he'd be the tight end 3, and yeah, he's still quite a bit behind Kelsey.
yeah. Anyways, go Hogs. George Kittle's great. He has a terrible haircut, but whatever. Let's move along to Zach Ertz here.
Sure.
This is a guy I wanted to talk about. I was mainly just trying to pick on someone that we normally don't talk about all that much here.
Kittle? Yeah.
As we all know, Zach Ertz was traded midseason from the Eagles to the Cardinals. Rumor has it that he's quite the birder and preferred to be traded to a team with an ornithological mascot. The
Is that
Falcons
like
just
a
drafted
closet term
Pitts,
for
so
bird watchers? A
what?
birder, like a bird
Yeah,
watcher.
that's what they're called.
Thank you.
The Falcons had just drafted Pitt, so they're out. The Seahawks couldn't trade for a horse with a chipped tooth in a dentist office. I'm not sure what that means, but I wrote it down. Anyways, the Colts just it didn't need any more Eagles players, nor did it fit the bird theme. So all jokes aside, Ertz fared better with the Cards. He was averaging just 6.6. I'm sorry, 6.7 points per game with the Eagles, but he got an increase. He got a bump up with the Redbirds.
Well, he was competing with Goddard. Yeah.
Well, that and yeah, I don't know if that was really the case.
Would you say he took flight with the Cardinals?
No, that's not what I was saying at all, Chris. As I stare angrily at you for that
Did I
awful
just steal
pun.
your pun?
Oh,
no, I thought I
wasn't
stole your
going there
pun.
at all. I was going away from that. I was flying away from it.
Let's make the show an hour and a half.
Actively avoiding it.
Bird puns.
Yep. Anyways, but so like Ertz was on the out, man. But then he got traded to the Cardinals, and people who picked him up and or started him his first week in Arizona were instantly rewarded. He scored 14.5 points there in his first week. But I mean, granted, it was against the Texans, but whatever. But like most tight ends this year, that he had his peaks and valleys. Ertz was the 3rd most targeted tight end, and he was the 2nd most targeted tight end in the red zone this past season. Unfortunately, he only came up with 3 touchdowns in the red zone. It's strange, but just a bit of an aberration, probably. Ertz has also had the 11th highest snap percentage out of all tight ends, which I believe was at about 67% of the Cardinal snaps. So that's like, even though it was 11th highest, it was still like 67%, which great, but it's also not bad considering the team he was playing for with, at times DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, and Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore and everything. So like he was finding his way onto the field. So I mean, like it was just. Here's the thing about Zach Ertz, and I already said he's going to be 32 to start next year at the start of next year. That's so weird that he's that old. And by the way, he went to Stanford, Chris. Stanford is where he went to
Good
college.
call. I can't believe I'm so
I wonder
frustrated
if
with
he's. I
myself.
wonder if he
I'm
was like
freaking talking about Dalton Schultz, who's a
I
Stanford
wonder if
tight
he was
end, for
like a
goodness
red
sakes.
shirt. Like I wonder if he was like a red shirt, like graduate transfer to
I just
Stanford or
can't believe I
something.
forgot it sitting here doing research about Dalton Schultz, who's a Stanford tight end. That's frustrating.
Anyways, no, it's all cool. Like, Zach Ertz was good. Like, I mean, he was more or less. What was this? He was 14th off the board as ADP and for tight ends, but that
Great
was when he was
value.
with the Eagles. So he returned value. I just, I don't know what like his contract is up with the Cardinals somehow. Somehow, like when the Cardinals traded for Zach Ertz, it also null and voided the rest of his contract with the Eagles, or they're paying the rest of it, and the Cardinals are done with Zach Ertz if they want to be.
Well,
It
you can
was
do what
very
you want to do.
confusing, but
I
apparently
don't say
that's the
do what you,
case.
yeah, I don't say do what you want to do, but you can put stipulations in a trade. Like we'll give you, I don't know, one and a
They
half
gave
million cash if we don't have to continue to pay said guy, if guy signs off on it, etc. Like you can put some stipulations in there.
yeah.
I did not know that. Go ahead, sir.
No, I thought that like I knew Ertz still had time left in his contract, but
I had
apparently
no
the
idea.
trade voided the rest of his contract. Well, at least from the Cardinals.
Or Philly already had an out. I don't know. I mean, Philly was already
I,
looking
it was
elsewhere.
very, I didn't look too hard. I didn't look too hard in it because of time, but yeah, that apparently Zach Ertz is a unrestricted free agent after come like what is it, March, whatever is the beginning of the new NFL season. What if you like? What do you like? I'm hoping that he goes somewhere where he can
Double
be.
digits, maybe. Oh, I'm sorry. Free agent. Gotcha. Talking about fantasy. You're talking about reality. Continue.
And I'm talking about fantasy. Like, where could Zach Ertz go? Like once again, like he's gonna ask for a lot of money. Still, like he's not gonna be like, oh, I'll take like $1 million
I'm going to throw
to
the
play for
Chargers out
you.
there. Absolutely. Again, they're one of the leading teams in cap room. Remember they
Okay,
still have a rookie quarterback. Oh, I'm sorry, not obviously not a rookie quarterback. A quarterback on his rookie contract.
a very young
Uh,
quarterback. Yes.
and a window. And hey, man, Bosa on defense, and a
Did you
window
say
with a
Boso?
Bosa on defense.
Okay, I'm like he's
A
not a bozo,
window,
and it's not
and then I went,
boza.
and then a window that they have to win with a cheap quarterback contract. I love any tight end destination there for not San Diego, for the LA Chargers. Other than that, I would name
The Bengals
can't
again. Maybe
jeez
Jacksonville, but
man.
I don't like it.
Chicago. I don't love it.
They got Cole Kmet.
I know your guy.
He's still on a rookie deal too. So like, why not parse out Cole
I mean,
Kmet
I
and
don't
see
know,
if he's the future?
Dallas on a 1 or 2 year if they lose
A
Schultz.
prove it deal, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, prove it deal.
Well, I mean, not a prove it deal, but like
A guy that might
last
have
hurrah
something
deal,
left in the
maybe.
tank. Exactly, a year or
That's
two.
easily like that's totally
A
Dallas'
front
MO.
loaded,
I could see them doing that.
a front loaded 2 year contract from the Dallas Cowboys because they played him for like 6 years in Philly twice a season, and they lost Schultz in this hypothetical. Yeah, okay, I'll throw that out there, and a high
I could
volume
also see
offense.
the Bears too if the new head coach wants to do like a 12 personnel set, 2 tight ends. It's possible.
Yeah,
Anyways, let's keep moving, man.
let's do it.
So that's Zach Ertz. He was number 5 on our list. Number 6 is Gronk. He missed 5 games with some sort of Gronkonian ailment. I don't
Yep,
remember what it is. That's why I'm making up words.
he'd have
Um,
been tight end 3 with his average per game if he'd have played more games. But
also,
we didn't.
he was technically the tight end 5 because he has the exact same points as Zach Ertz. Now that I'm really looking at it, interesting. Um,
Yes, he does. He's tied for sixth. They're tied for
yeah,
sixth.
fifth,
Good point.
fifth,
Sorry,
tied for
looking at the
fifth.
wrong column.
Anyways, Kyle Pitts is number 7, as we mentioned earlier. Crap tons of yards and targets and receptions, just didn't come with the touchdowns. If I'm probably going to skip Pitts next year in draft season, just because he's gonna
You
go
don't want to
like
pay up for tight end 2 or 3.
I'm either get my tight end like super early or wait super late, and so Pitts
Could you
falls
not make
into
the
that middle
argument that
category.
Could you not make the argument that he is the guy that you should get super early? I assume you're making the opposite
No,
argument. Okay.
no.
Why do you hate this guy so much?
I don't hate him. I'm scared that he's the next Julio Jones that
Did
doesn't
he
score
not return
touchdowns.
value this past draft season? Did he not return to value this season?
Not really, because he was going off the tight end 4, and he went and he, according to this, actually, he's
I don't know if he was going with tight end 4. What's his ADP?
tight end 4,
Was.
ADP,
Really?
46th overall.
I've,
Yes.
I've got a tab open here for ADP. God dang, that's frustrating. Okay, well, in
Tight
that
end
case, I
7 was
agree with you.
Logan Thomas, and he was going at the 70
Well, that's
and
different,
77th overall, which is what, the 8th round? I think 8th round. That seems a little bit more appropriate, but I'm still probably skipping him. It kind of depends on how the draft goes for me, but yeah, probably skipping out a bit. Number 8 on our list is Dawson Knox.
Mr. Dawson Knox finished as the tight end 8, as Josh just alluded to. He did play
I didn't
15
lose
games.
anything.
He just told us. That's right. Um,
I didn't tell you anything.
he only played 15 games. That's important to mention in a 17-game season. His ADP was 272. He was the tight end 32. If you didn't notice, there's a theme with both
I'm
my
sorry.
guys.
I'm sorry. What did you just came out of your mouth? 200.
His ADP
what?
was 272 overall. I did it right this week with my two guys, as opposed to wide receivers last
236.
week. That's not what I have for Dawson Knox.
236 from Fantasy
I have
Pros.
272.
Half PPR
from
tight ends.
Fantasy Pros. Half point. As the tight end 32. Again,
I'm intrigued
amazing.
by this problem that we're having.
I have no idea, man. He was tied for first among tight ends with 9 receiving touchdowns. I believe there were 4 guys with 9 touchdowns in the tight end position, so he was tied for first. He scored over half of those touchdowns, over half, in the first 5 weeks of the season before breaking a bone in his hand in a Week 6 loss to the Titans. In his first
Also
game
known
back,
as COVID, like I was calling it. I was wrong. Just let me be wrong, all right, Chris? Jesus, stop rubbing it in my face.
Yeah, he broke a bone in his hand. You know, catching the ball is tough with a broken bone in your hand. So,
Hey, Chris,
again,
you know the Australian Open still going on? Why am I not watching this?
9
I'm recording the
touchdowns.
show. Why am I not?
I have no idea. Again, 9 touchdowns. He scored 5 of them in the first 5 weeks of the season. Broke his hand in Week 6. I think there was a couple weeks of injury and a bye week in there. So you're talking about an absolutely dominant first 5 weeks of the season. And if you include the game he was hurt, as I said, Week 6, and his first game back, where he was limited clearly because he only got 1 target, he had another 5-week stretch of the exact opposite where he was basically absent for your fantasy team. So it was tough, but you had to hold on to him because of what you've seen and also what you saw back in 2020, I suppose. He was coming on a little bit then. There was some hype. And then come full circle back to obviously not helping your fantasy team, but what he did in the playoffs in the wild card round last week, another 2 touchdowns. So you have to take this guy into account as a red zone threat. Absolutely. He was 6th in red zone targets among tight ends, despite only playing 15 games, may I remind you.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely wasn't a yardage guy or a target leader. He had 71 targets, caught 49 of them for 587 yards. That's a 12.0 average. So much of his fantasy dominance came from the touchdowns. Unlike Schultz, who I talked about earlier, who produced and had good touchdown numbers. Like he was a target leader, Schultz was. However, I think Knox and Schultz are more similar than different in terms of playing in great offenses, high volume offenses, and being very talented tight ends. So, I mean, I clearly see him as a top 12 tight end again next year.
I know you're making this quick, but and that's cool. But like I'm seeing a little bit of comparisons. What?
I was more or less done, except for
good
finiting
so
my
I'm
finish
seeing,
for
I'm
next
seeing
year.
I'm getting a little Mark Andrews vibe here. He's not Dawson Knox is not the best pass catching option for the Buffalo Bills. But, Mark Andrews, Dawson Knox is going to be going into his 4th year like Andrews was this year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And Andrews took a huge step up in targets and yardage and everything in his 4th year. Maybe Dawson Knox can too. Like I already said, like he was kind of my dart throw guys who were in the top 12 this year that could that could be the tight end 1 next year. You get your Travis
I think
Kelce
given
to
the
miss a
couple
game
games
or two.
with he missed with injury, and to your point, it could be any of them.
And honestly,
If he
I don't know.
repeats
I'm
with
just
touchdowns,
like,
absolutely.
so Dawson Knox, he was a tight end 8, like we've already established. Tight end 8 last year was, or going into the 2021 season, was Noah Fant, and he was going at 80 overall, which is,
Yeah.
oh, fish. It's in the 8th round, I think.
Okay. Okay.
That's not bad. Yeah, I don't want necessarily a touchdown dependent tight end, but they kind of all are, because you know what? Tight ends
I was gonna let
suck.
you finish. Yeah, that's dumpster fire, man. Again, dumpster fire. You miss the first three or so, and it's like a dumpster fire.
And
Most
also
of them are. If you're involved in your offense in the red zone, it's not a bad thing. That's what you're
hey
trying to say,
Chris,
I believe.
if you break your hand, isn't it hard to
I was
catch a
just gonna
touchdown?
say. I was gonna let you finish. I was like, dude, add in at least another game or two. The guy doesn't. It's not. We're not talking about a hamstring. We're not talking about a receiver with a hamstring issue. This is not a recurring thing. You break a bone,
It wasn't his
you
like
heal it.
fourth concussion in like a season
Thank
and
you.
a half either.
This is
Like
not an
it's
injury history, although I'd have to go back further and look at collegiate. I won't do that tonight, clearly. I'm just
we
saying
don't have
that.
time for that.
Exactly. That's not my point. My point is, assuming that he doesn't break his cotton picking hand again, hey, man, we're looking at a top 5 season easily. Easily with 9 touchdowns. Maybe his
Yeah.
yardage totals look better. Maybe he continued because he flashed in targets for sure for a 2-3 week stretch a couple of times. Absolutely, he did. His targets weren't that abysmal, but it just didn't add up to a Dalton Schultz esque season. Can you tell him hi on him?
Yep. Yeah, oh no. Oh no, he plays for the Cowboys and Chris likes them. Weird.
And he's on my dynasty
Um,
roster. Oh, like Josh never does that.
I haven't once this show. Okay.
I like that stipulation. You're right, sir.
I'm completely wrong. It was totally rubbing in your face with Mark
Oh,
Andrews.
did you do it this show? I was thinking more like the running backs and receivers from the past couple of weeks. I was.
But I also did with Mark Andrews too. You end up with a tight end 1 on the
Oh, he is
season,
on
you
your
might win a
dynasty
dynasty championship. Just saying.
You just might.
Let's
Positional
move along to
scarcity.
tight end
Let's
number.
go.
Let's move along to tight end number 9 on our list, which is Hunter Henry. I don't got a lot to say about Hunter Henry here. I certainly didn't pick him as a focus point to rub it in Chris's face that I was right and he was wrong. That I was on team Henry and he was on team Janu. But before you say anything, if memory serves correct, you did. I think you said that you thought maybe Hunter Henry was a bit of a value pre-draft or during
It seems
draft
to ring a
season.
bell. Seems to ring a bell, but
So I wrote that
hard
up
to
and I'm like,
remember.
no, I think that like you were on Janu, but you were also saying that, being the perpetual fence rider that you are. I
I
mean,
definitely went as high as Henry as high on Henry as you were given Johnny's presence. Yeah, you were higher on Henry for sure.
yeah. Okay. Even though Janu and Henry were going back to back in ADP rankings, they were
Mm-hmm.
still being drafted 15 picks apart. Janu was going out at 140 overall, which puts what is that? 10, 11, 13, 14. Hunter
I
Henry is
think.
going at 155 overall. So like he was your like tight end dart throw at the end of like last pick of the draft. Where Ertz was the 11th highest in snap percentage, Henry that would be Zach Ertz, like what I talked about earlier. Hunter Henry was 18th most, but
Ooh.
Henry was still at, and this is where I got Ertz wrong. Hunter Henry was at 67%, whereas Zach Ertz, I believe, was at like close to 80%. I'm sorry, it wasn't that big of a difference. That's only 13%. Like it's not, you know.
Sure.
67% of the Pat snaps where, Jonnu Smith was also on the field at those times too. I don't think that's that bad. I'd really like that number to be higher. Of course, 67 is still not that great, but I mean, I can't change the past, Chris. I know,
Well
I
said.
know. We could have at the beginning of the season, but that would have been the future and not the past. And you didn't have the hindsight or the ambition to do anything about it. So there was something about the pizza being along the way. I don't really know. So we can't really change the past. I just confused myself. I'm sorry.
You made me
Anyways,
hungry for pizza in the same stroke.
yeah, I just wanted to say pizza because I like pizza. I'm a big boy and I like my pizza.
See, if we were streaming this, we'd be like, "Hey, let's order pizza." I'm just kidding. Continue, sir. I'm sorry. I'm getting off track.
Totally
Let's
gonna
go.
order pizza later. I love pizza.
Mhm.
Anyways, Chris, real quick side note: pineapple on your pizza? Yes or no?
No.
Yeah, exactly. It's an abomination. What do you think about Hunter Henry for next season? To reel it back into Hunter Henry. I
If
mean,
memory serves, they're both under contract, right? Henry and
oh
Janu.
yeah, and actually, Janu has one
I
more
couldn't find
year on his
Janu on
deal. I
PFF
think
just now looking him up. I assumed they used him for run blocking more than they used Henry for run blocking.
they used
Justifiably
him for
so.
injury fodder more than they did with Hunter Henry as
Okay.
well.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, shots
So
fired at
I'm out
Janu.
I'm out on Janu. Have been for at least a season and a half or so.
That's not
Just
true at all. You were totally on Janu
like 2 seasons ago with the Browns, when he was still with the Browns. Ever
Titans,
since he left, ever since
Titans,
either Henry
Titans,
left the
Titans.
Chargers. No, what? Oh, Titans. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. And Joku's the other guy. Just same guy, same guy.
No, it's not.
Never gonna realize his receiving potential. He's a Greek god of an athletic specimen who can block well enough
Sometimes
to block
athletes
more
can't.
than we would like him
Athleticism
to in
doesn't
fantasy.
translate to football, right? I mean,
Fair. Not all
look
the
at
time
me. I
does
didn't pan
athletic
out in
prowess.
the NFL. No, it's quite the athlete.
He's lying to your faces, folks. The point is, it doesn't. If you're the best athlete on the field, it doesn't necessarily mean you're the best receiving tight end on the field. And I don't want anything to do with Njoku or Jonnu Smith coming from the Titans. Hunter Henry's a fine red zone threat in the NFL, just like he has been almost every season of his career, minus maybe his first with Gates. I think he's fine. Top 12, I'm not going to go that far. I just hate the.
No, and in my notes here, I have him outside of the top 12 because he was 9 here.
Not far, but outside,
we get Waller
yeah.
back next year. We get TJ Hawkinson back next year.
Yep.
And I have another guy that I didn't write
Waller
down.
was 11 games. Hawkinson was 12 games, to refresh
Mm-hmm.
folks' memory.
We're going to get Cole Kmet in the top 12 next year. We're going to get Logan Thomas back into maybe the top 12, maybe into the top 12, maybe a Robert Tonyan.
Higbee for the Rams was a huge red zone guy, statistically. Even though the other stats won't work out so well, and
that's
he finished
not coming
outside.
Through, is it?
Freiermuth, let me throw that out there. He's the one, I think.
He was my and Freiermuth is my super deep dark, I love this buried in the earth.
Obviously questions at quarterback
or tight
and whatnot, but man, love that guy. Love him. Watch him play.
Freiermuth. I mean, he was the number 2 guy he was the number 2 tight end coming in this draft, and the only reason he wasn't talked about more was Kyle Pitts.
Yep, of course. Yeah. Well, and also just the type of player they are. I'm not saying Freiermuth can't be a fine receiving tight end for Steelers.
He could be
the
next
else.
Freiermuth is like the next Gronk.
Just in the pass happy NFL that we right, but in the pass happy NFL, Pitts was 4th overall. You're gonna get all the press and all the hype. Let's finish up though.
Mr. Unicorn. Number 10 on our list is Dallas Goedert for the Eagles.
The other side of the Philly sandwich. There for a while.
Yeah, he actually had a better points per game than Kyle Pitts and Hunter Henry, but he missed a couple games.
Good call.
In your face, Dallas Goedert. Mike Gesicki, one of our favorite tight ends going in pre-draft. Didn't really pan out.
Yeah.
Played every game. I think it was used a lot more to block this year because the Miami Dolphins offensive line was atrocious.
Yep. I think maybe Gesicki is turning into a more well-rounded tight end than we thought instead of just a pass catcher. And again, like you said, bad.
Noah Fant. Just bad quarterbacking from the get. Somehow he made it into the tight end 12. Here's the thing, Chris. There's a 112-point difference from tight end 1 to tight end 12. That's
like a whole nother tight end. You know what I mean?
There's from tight end 3, which is Dalton Schultz, to Noah Fant. There's 40 4.8 points difference. Can you tell I did that on the fly? That's a big gap from 1 to 3, and not a big gap from 3 to 12. And you know what that means? Tight ends can go for themselves.
Dumpster fire again. I'm going to throw that term out there,
dude. If there's one more, and we're wrapping up the show here. To talk about tight ends in general. First off, I want to say, and I've said it all season, I hate tight ends. But
you're gonna make your flex. You're gonna make your flex argument.
What I was gonna actually ask you is, why don't we draft tight ends earlier if there's such a disparity in that level of talent?
Because the drop, because to your point a couple moments ago, the drop off is so steep. Then, if you don't land a top 3 guy, you're done.
I guess Kittle was going in the top 3 rounds.
You don't want Mark. How do I put it? You don't want Travis Kelce of 2021. You want the Dalton Schultz of 2022. Does that make sense? You want the Dawson Knox of 2022.
Okay, so who's your?
When I looked at their ADP tonight, I was honestly surprised at my research. I was like, holy crap! I basically picked 2 undrafted guys. Basically.
Well, depends on
how there are people. I was one of them. I was picking Higbee. I was picking Higbee before both those guys. I was picking the Seattle guy, Everett. Gerald Everett. I'm not necessarily an Everett guy, but
Everett was okay.
ADP wise, he was clearly drafted well ahead of both Knox and Schultz.
Okay, so speaking of next year's Schultz or
there you go,
Knox or your Hunter Henrys or your whatever
guy outside the top. Well, we already did that though, didn't we?
So who's your guy not in our list this week that could be next year outside of injury?
Well, we already named one.
Not Hawkinson, not Waller. You know,
we already named one in Freiermuth. I'm going to go and reiterate another one in Higbee.
He was also injured, but that's fine.
Higbee's red zone numbers were great. He got enough tight looks in the red zone on a high-powered offense. We don't know what's going to happen with Robert Woods coming back from injury. Odell Beckham Jr. is only, I think his contract's out. It's targets. It's about targets and a good offense. I think Higbee is a great answer. Freiermuth, Higbee, and you already named the guys with injury. I'm going down the list, sir. Give me a couple more moments. Wow,
okay,
it gets really.
You look, and I'll tell you mine.
I don't know. Let's go with the Saints guy that I liked this year with an actual quarterback.
Maybe Troutman. I was wondering if you were going to say Troutman.
And when I say dark horse, sir, I mean like pitch of black.
I mean, he's buried underneath a rock in the very depths of a cave.
Unlike this previous offseason where we had some reasonably high thoughts about him and Komet. Komet is looking better. I think I'm
going back to the Komet well. That's what that was.
I would too. I would too.
Komet is number 1 on my list. If Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay, Robert Tonyan. I mean, I said with
down year
injury, but
down year for sure. He had a down year.
But Tonyan, one more guy that I would just one more guy I'd like to maybe throw out there. Maybe. Sorry. I skipped over my actual guy, Jordan Akins, from the Houston Texans. Was he not a rookie this year?
I think he's a year removed from a rookie. I think it was.
I think he's a rookie. I think this was his rookie season. But regardless, man, I mean, Davis Mills showed some potential there behind a really, really horrific offensive line. He was born in 92.
There was a guy out of UCLA this year that was a rookie. I can't remember who he ended up playing for.
Oh no, it's not. It's Jordan. The Texans do have a rookie tight end. I don't remember what his name is, but Jordan Akins is a guy that could be. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's someone has to be catching the ball for the Texans next year. Whether it's Davis Mills at quarterback, I think they're going to roll Davis Mills and maybe bring in some competition just in case. Maybe what's that dude that was the quarterback there? Nope, never mind. It was the same guy. Maybe you get a Teddy Bridgewater that goes to Teddy B that goes to the Texans.
Yeah, he did so great for Noah Fant.
Oh, Brevin Jordan. That's the tight end.
Thank you. Where did he get drafted to?
The Texans.
Thank you. Okay,
He was like he was like the third tight end off the board in the
UCLA.
2021
I
draft.
kept getting a rookie for this coming season. Apparently, Greg Dole.
That's how I got it mixed up. They got it's like a Wheel of Fortune before and after. Brevin Jordan's
the name I was looking for. He's got some promise in terms of at least an athletic profile, receiving chops.
Well, same with Jordan Akins too. I mean, it's just
fair. And Jordan Akins is not that far removed from being a rookie either. Like he's like
it's his fourth season this year. I just looked it up.
Okay, my bad.
Sorry, not to like throw in your face.
Late bloomer, just like me. Anyway, folks.
One more guy that I think he's washed that maybe could potentially do it. Evan Ingram. He's not going to be with the Giants next year. That's for almost.
Can you see me not holding my breath?
Yeah, me neither. I'm just like,
I know.
But like of guys that like maybe was in the like a guy in a bad situation.
We should make a graphic in the off season to use moving forward. The tight end dartboard. Book it.
A tight end dartboard with like both of us going like.
Hey, before we close real quick, folks, we're talking about saying some show format changes. Let us know in the comments. We're thinking about streaming a little bit more. Let us know. I think that's something I'd like to have on command there, a tight end dartboard with some faces.
And we're talking about like streaming, and then just kind of like maybe putting the show into audio format with podcast, like into an RSS feed. And it's just mainly because Chris is talking about going back to work. I work full time.
Yep.
And it's just a little bit easier on us, and just have a live show where y'all can.
And we were already moving away from the gigantic matchups show format because Josh's point.
It's not saying that we won't do that, but we might do like a real abbreviated, like touch on this, and this, or something like that. Like
more the key points than every single player on the docket.
We just, as guys who don't get paid to do this, and it's not saying that we hate it. It's just that real life is outside of this show is as much as we love doing it. We do. I personally do. I'm not going to speak for Chris, but I love doing this show. It is definitely making me at least at bare minimum a better fantasy player.
Hey man, you had a great season. Absolutely.
It has definitely brought me closer to Chris. His wife is definitely jealous. She has sent me a lot of hate texts about it. That's not true. I don't have your wife's phone number. Or do I? But yeah, we would like to do the streaming thing, and that would also get us, like in touch with you guys a little bit more too, a little bit of more audience interaction as well. Not saying we would be there to answer every audience question or anything like that.
Not necessarily,
but certainly the pertinent ones or ones that were like are relevant to the subject or something. Maybe we'll have a Q&A section. We don't know. We're just kind of spitballing some ideas. It's just that the whole like editing video process is, even as much as we don't do a lot of like special effects and
as easy of an edit as it is,
CGI robots and everything into it. It does take a lot of time out of our lives. And Chris has got a family. I don't, but I certainly have a comic book addiction.
We all have lives, man.
Let's put it that way. I almost said drug addiction. I'm like, I'm not addicted to any drugs anymore.
Just comic books. Woo! On that note, what? You're editing this, not me, sir.
Am I editing though, or am I just gonna release it all?
On that note,
have a good night, everyone. Next week we'll be back with quarterbacks, probably the top 12 with some sleepers again next week. We can look forward to having it on Sundays. If you're watching us in YouTube format, you can check us out in podcast format. If you're listening to us in podcast format, you can check us out on YouTube, which is more or less a video where you can see my ugly mug and Chris's voice, and you can see what Chris looks like, which is better than me.
Beautiful.
We're not here to judge. We don't want any comments of, oh, Josh, you're better than Chris. It's not true, and I hate myself, so let me hate myself, okay? Have a good night.
Later, everybody.
chit chat all we want afterwards.
Hey, everybody.
No. You're not stealing my thunder in this one.